All right, this is now the 7900 XTX, so AMD's new top-end GPU, and we are testing out an Unreal Engine 5.1, which now has things like Nanite, which allows these trees to smoothly fade in without level of detail pops. It has things like Lumen. I said Nanite before, right? That's the tree thing. Anyway, it has things like Lumen, which has really excellent lighting, and it has hardware accelerated ray tracing, which I currently have turned on. If you're looking at the frame rate counter in the top left there, you'll notice that the frame rate's fairly low. Well, right now, this is absolutely maxing everything out at 4K, including the hardware accelerated ray tracing. Now that we're in a game, I'm going to go ahead and kick on a, what do you call it, average frame rate counter. So you can see the average frame rate in the middle, the current frame rate on the left, and the 1% lows on the right. I feel like I hear a treasure chest, but I don't see one. Also, I should note that I don't know how to play Fortnite, which will become very important, apparent to those of you who do know how to play Fortnite. And what else should we say here? Well, maybe I should actually show you the graphics settings to confirm we are doing what we say we are doing. So we are at 4K, I hear gunshots, epic preset, native resolution, no upscaling yet. The Lumen and Nanite, all that is on. Hardware ray tracing is on. So this is absolutely maxed out. And no, you would not play Fortnite at these settings. I'm trying to test out Unreal Engine 5.1 with Lumen and Nanite and ray tracing, and this is, unfortunately for me, the only game where we can do that. Also, I see enemies. Should I fight? I don't... The frame rate's rather low for me right now, but you know what? We're gonna go ahead and take some shots. Frames win games. I don't know how to win the game anyway, so who needs frames? Whoa. Apparently you can do jumpy thingies with the hammers. Something tells me this person has a much better idea how to play the game than I do. Which means I should run away. Alright. I think we have determined that maxing everything out at 4K is not going to be the way. So we could take a look at how much the ray tracing is affecting this. So currently we're sitting at about 40 frames per second. What if we turned off the hardware ray tracing? How big of a hit is that causing us? I think you can turn this off in-game now. It didn't let me in the a few weeks ago. But yeah, our frame rate went up to like 44, so is it not really that big of a deal, at least in this scene? Try turning that back on. So I think it is actually applying and unapplying, because the frame rate, yeah, is changing. Things look a little different. All right, so we're gonna, I think, leave it on for the moment and try, what if we turn down settings a little bit? So what if we went down to the high settings instead of the epic preset. So this will keep Lumen and Nanite, but go down to the high settings rather than the epic settings. I'll reset the frame rate counter. Hardware ray tracing is still turned on. And we are now closer to 60 frames per second. So interesting. I mean, I think hardware ray tracing is still turned on at the high setting. We should actually double check if that gets auto disabled when you go down to high instead of... Yeah, hardware ray tracing still on. So it seems like the ray tracing must be pretty light in this game. Hey, bro. What a rude pig. I'm hearing gunshots. Now that I have almost 60 frames per second, should we like try to take a fight? Is this an assault rifle I should be using? These have to be bots. Like, what is happening right now? Let's use this. Fire. Oh, he's flying away. Is this... That can't be a real person, can it? Is that an NPC? I'm so confused right now, guys. This game makes no sense to me. But I think we could go ahead and play with the settings a little bit more. So one option would be to try a little bit of upscaling. So this doesn't have DLSS or FSR at the moment, but it has TSR, which is kind of the Unreal Engine version of that. If you go down to the quality setting, it's a 66% linear resolution scale. Basically, it means it's going to render the game at 1440p. I'm going to reset the frame rate counter here. But then use some temporal data and things like that to try to reconstruct a 4K-like image. By the way, if you're noticing screen tearing, it's because I'm recording on an external capture card, so there's no performance overhead from the recording. But since it records at 60 frames per second without, variable refresh rate support and all that, things can look a little bit screen teary. Anyway, looks like we're now over 90 frames per second, which seems nice. It's like a DMR of some kind. Do I want that? What is slap juice anyway? Is this a thing I want? Did that charge up shields? No, oh, it gave me shields. Oh, and it's probably some kind of like speed boost or something too. I realized there's shields in this game and I should probably be charging those up. I think I see an enemy right there. Anyway, let's go ahead and try what if we went back to native resolution now. And now we do the no ray tracing. So ray tracing off. And we'll go back up to the Epic preset. So basically, we're going to do what we were doing, but no ray tracing this time. So no ray tracing 4K. Highest settings other than no ray tracing. Native resolution. Anything in this truck that I want? Seems like a shotgun might be a good thing to have rather than 2 assault rifles. Okay. Not that I know how to play the game anyway. But just in case we get into a fight, I might attempt to win. We'll see what happens. What is that? Some kind of supply drop, maybe? All right, well, I think we have confirmed that the highest settings at 4K are a bit much. Is this an enemy who is like standing still looking at a menu or something? Is that a real person? I think they were just AFK. Now I'm gonna die. That sucks. See, now I died. All right, we can now test out some other settings. I think while in spectator mode here. So we can try out, let's see. Let's try upscaling at the maximum settings. So this is 4K, you leave everything set to maximum settings, but then you upscale a little bit. And we'll watch this person kind of bounce around. All right, we're at 75 FPS-ish. You know, guys, I'm not 100% sure if the spectator mode, is it still as demanding as when you're actually playing? I don't know, but we'll go ahead and use spectator mode to finish out some testing here. So 75 FPS or so. Looks like we're dipping to around 60 there for a bit on the motorcycle. So still pretty demanding. So what if we went down to the higher setting, the high settings rather than the epic settings? But now we go with the, where is it? Native resolution. All right, so we're now looking at native 4K, ray tracing off, with the high settings. So it looks like right around 60 FPS with the high settings is totally doable. And that's at native 4K. We could also try upscaling at 4K. So we'll go down to the quality setting now, reset the frame rate counter. Yeah, so it looks like the high settings with the quality upscale, which looks pretty good. It looks a little soft to me, but not bad at all. Looks like we're over 100 frames per second. Seems pretty good. Interior scenes, I think, are easier to run than others. Let's go ahead, and I don't really want to go... If you guys are like, why not turn down the settings farther to get higher frame rates? The whole point right now is testing out Lumen and Nanite and all of that, because this is the new Unreal Engine 5.1 features. If you go below this, it turns those off, which I'm not really interested in doing. What I am interested in doing, though, is going back up to the maximum settings. Sounds like we're missing some battle here. But what I'd like us to do is take a look at 1440p. So we're now going to be going to 1440p at the maximum settings, but no ray tracing. Looks like our person here is in combat. All right, max setting. Now I said max settings, but this is with ray tracing off. Looks like we're up in the 70s, 80s, especially if this was a single-player game, this frame rate would be fine. Obviously, you can play a multiplayer game like this too, but... remember, the idea here isn't really to test out Fortnite specifically. It's more about Unreal Engine 5.1. I'm sure that's confusing some people, but whatever. Let's go ahead and turn on the ray tracing. So ray tracing back on. So this is 1440p. With ray tracing enabled, so actually maxed out settings. Looks like we're still... I mean, the 1% lows are dipping to around... the 1% lows are dipping a bit, but that's stutters. And Unreal Engine just has some stuttering issues we're aware of. Looks like overall, averaging more like 70 FPS, dipping to around 60. This is in combat and everything, motorcycles involved. Multiple enemies. So it looks like you can max things out at 1440p. You're just not going to get crazy high refresh rates when you're doing that, which is pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and try... What if we went down to the high... Actually, what if we did a little bit of upscaling? So you're maxing everything out, but now you use the upscaling at the quality setting. Okay, we now have our new hero. So it's looking like if you're willing to upscale, we can be 100 frames per second or more, completely maxed out settings. But to my eye, it looks a bit soft at 1440p with the upscaling. So I might consider turning settings down rather than completely maxing everything out, which is what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna go back up to the native resolution. And we're gonna go down to the high preset. This still has the ray tracing enabled for now. All right, we're gonna reset the frame rate counter. The reflections do look pretty good. All right. So yeah, looking like high settings, even with ray tracing enabled at 1440p native. We're in the 100 FPS range, dipping into the 90s, but that's not bad. 1% lows, around 80. We're getting a few little frame time spikes, I think, as they enter a new zone. Like I said, I think that's more of a shader compilation or loading in a new zone kind of stutter more than anything else. Hoping there's less issues with that on the new engine. Okay, let's try turning the ray tracing off. So ray tracing off, 120-ish FPS, but we're inside a building right now. Let's wait till they go outside, because inside tends to be easier to render. Okay, it looks like if I ever did want to learn Fortnite, I'd have to learn how to use those hammers for jumping. Yeah, it seems like we're well over 100 frames per second with stuff going on. Man, the lighting looks really good with Lumen. Anyway, driving the truck around and all that. I think for the sake of completion before the game ends, why don't we go down to 1080p, and we'll go back up to the epic settings with ray tracing on. So, give it a second to render all of that in. Resetting the frame rate counter. So this is 1080p, absolutely maxed out. Ray tracing, Lumen, Nanite, all of that. And there's a good amount going on in this scene. Seems to be 100 frames per second. Dipping into the upper 80s there for just a second. All right, let's go ahead and drop the settings a little bit. What if we turned off ray tracing? Gets us a little bit, but honestly, the ray tracing, I'm gonna reset the frame rate counter here, but the ray tracing here does not seem incredibly demanding. It seems to be a pretty light touch, or whatever it's doing does seem to work fairly well on AMD's new GPUs. Ooh, are we gonna get a new hero here? Yes, we have a new hero. And another one. All right, but now we've got the sniper in the bushes. And we're at like 100 frames per second, and we're at 1080p on a GPU that most people would not be using for 1080p, but hey, you know what? Let's just keep testing things out for the sake of completion. We're gonna go down to the high setting, but we're at least at first gonna kick the ray tracing back on, and we're gonna reset the frame rate counter. Looks like 130 FPS-ish while we're picking berries. And allowing the circle to close in on us. There's an enemy behind the tree. All right, let's see how our new hero does. Let's go ahead and adjust settings a little bit more. So we'll turn the ray tracing off. So this is now 1080p. High settings with ray tracing off. We are resetting the frame rate counter. So, I mean, the ray tracing does take a hit. Looks like we're up into the 150s-ish, 160s-ish instead of the 130-ish. But able to get good performance with it on. Now, again, I know some of you guys are like, but you'd never use these settings in competitive Fortnite. Again, I'm trying to test out the new features. Not just trying to test out Fortnite. All right, let's see how the big hammer goes here for our new hero. What's she gonna do? All right. Now, let's see. So we could try turning settings down further. But it's my understanding, I don't think you can turn Nanite off in gameplay. See, that's the thing. So I am gonna go down to the medium settings here, but it's gonna leave Nanite on, just so you guys are aware. The actual medium settings would not have Nanite on, but this, I think, turns off Lumen. So you can see the lighting engine is now much less beautiful, but the frame rates have jumped pretty significantly. Over 200 FPS now. And we'll go down to the low settings, but again, these aren't the true low settings because it's leaving Nanite on. We're now at like 300 frames per second though. Again, we'd have to restart the game to try things out with Nanite off. Which I think we'll have, we'll go up to 1440p. So we're looking at 1440p low settings, but with Nanite turned on. 240, 230. And there's the game. Wait, are there any more enemies? No, there it is. There's the victory. All right, hopefully, wait, is that's a licensed song? I don't want to, I'm gonna turn off the video. I don't want to lose monetization.